All right, we really need to sit down and talk about what just went down this week because it honestly feels like the entire internet is about to shift overnight, and almost nobody is explaining the actual details in a way that makes sense. On Monday, lawmakers quietly pushed through a massive legislative package that essentially tries to rewrite the fundamental rules for being online, and it passed in a huge 267 to 117 vote. It is called the Kids Act, and instead of being just one simple rule, it is basically 14 different online safety proposals mashed into one giant mega bill. Now, on the surface, the people who wrote this are taking massive victory laps, acting like they just saved the digital world by forcing platforms to protect younger users from sketchy design features and endless scrolling traps. But behind the scenes, this thing has completely divided absolutely everyone who actually understands how the internet works. Privacy groups, safety advocates, and even the politicians themselves are fighting constantly over what this actually means in practice. We are looking at a future where the way websites track you completely changes, where AI chatbots have weird new legally mandated rules, and where a massive legal loophole might accidentally force everyone to prove their age just to use a basic app. It is an absolute roller coaster of good intentions clashing with harsh reality, and we really need to dive deep into how this is going to impact every single time you open your phone, scroll your feed, or try to sign up for a new service from here on out. So let's get right into the biggest reason people are stressed out right now, which is the whole age verification situation. The actual text of the law does not explicitly come out and say that websites have to scan your face or demand a photo of your government ID, which is what everyone is screaming about online, but it does something way sneakier and arguably worse. It changes the legal standard so that tech platforms are completely on the hook if they should have known that a user is underage. That little phrase is a complete nightmare for social media companies. Digital privacy groups are pointing out that these massive apps are going to be absolutely terrified of getting sued into oblivion if someone slips through their filters and sees something they shouldn't. To protect themselves, the cheapest and easiest route for these companies will likely be to set up strict age verification roadblocks for literally everyone, meaning even full grown adults would get caught in the crossfire just to browse. We are talking about a very real scenario where you might have to upload sensitive documents or submit to biometric scans just to access basic websites or forums. It creates this incredibly frustrating irony where a package meant to protect your privacy might actually force every single person to hand over even more sensitive data to giant corporations. A lot of analysts are warning that hoarding all this personal information is just asking for massive data breaches down the line, totally undermining the entire point of staying safe online and leaving us all way more exposed. But the drama gets so much deeper and way more chaotic when you look at what was actually ripped out of this package at the very last second. A massive part of this effort was originally based on a completely different proposal that sailed through the Senate a couple of years ago with tons of support. That original version was built entirely around holding tech platforms legally responsible if their platform designs ended up causing harm to younger users, effectively forcing them to make things safe by default. Well, right before voting this week, the House completely stripped that core accountability rule out of the final text. Some folks argued that keeping it in would lead to massive censorship, as platforms would just aggressively delete anything remotely controversial to avoid facing any legal action. But stripping it out absolutely enraged the original creators of the bill, who are now saying the current version is basically completely useless. A bunch of youth safety groups even stepped in to protest, arguing that without that specific rule, tech giants are just getting a massive free pass to keep pushing addictive features without any real consequences. It has created this wild situation where child safety advocates say it is way too weak, free speech groups say it is still way too restrictive, and nobody can figure out how to actually hold these massive platforms accountable without breaking the entire ecosystem in the process. It is a classic case of trying to fix a highly complex problem and just ending up making everybody mad instead. Even with all that infighting and complaining, the bill still manages to completely overhaul data privacy rules in a way that will flip the back end of the internet entirely upside down. For literally decades, websites were really only restricted from tracking kids under the age of 13, which is exactly why every single app you have ever downloaded made you check a box confirming your age when you signed up. This new package completely changed the game by bumping that minimum age up to 14. And on top of that, it creates a brand new protected category for teenagers all the way up to 17. Under these new rules, platforms are entirely banned from using targeted advertising on anyone under 18. That means an app cannot secretly harvest your scrolling habits or your search history to serve you hyper-specific ads if you fall into that teenage bracket. It also gives teenagers the legal right to see exactly what data a platform has collected on them and gives them the power to hit a delete button to completely wipe their digital footprint. For the compliance teams working at these tech companies, this is going to be an absolute nightmare to pull off. To follow these strict rules, they have to perfectly separate their teenage users from their adult users behind the scenes, which circles right back to the very real possibility that they will just force everyone to verify their age from the jump. It is a massive logistical headache that, to be completely honest, will probably break a bunch of features. To cap it all off, there is this surprisingly futuristic and honestly slightly eerie section of the bill aimed directly at artificial intelligence, which just shows how fast things are moving right now. With the massive explosion of AI tools recently, lawmakers decided to throw in some incredibly specific rules to regulate how these software programs are allowed to interact with us on a daily basis. The package mandates that AI chatbots must actively remind users that they are talking to a computer and not a real human being. It also forces these platforms to give users automatic reminders to take breaks if they have been chatting for extended periods of time. On top of all that, it explicitly requires the software to share mental health crisis resources if the conversation veers into dark or heavy topics. It is absolutely wild to think about, because the government is openly acknowledging that artificial intelligence is getting so incredibly good at faking human connection that we actually need mandatory reality checks hard-coded into the software by law. As for what happens next with all of this, the package has successfully passed the House, but it is heading straight into a major showdown in the Senate, where it is expected to face a ton of fierce pushback. The entire tech industry is watching this closely, pouring resources into figuring out how to handle the fallout. So while the internet is not shutting down today, the way we experience it, the way we sign up for things, and the way our data is handled is definitely on track to look radically different very soon. Anyways, that's it for this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.